Stop trying to fix that person. Stop trying to understand why they can look into your eyes, lie to your face, walk away and sleep soundly that same night. You spent years searching for a childhood trauma, a psychological explanation, a repressed event that would justify their behavior. There isn't one. And that's exactly where the mistake that's draining your energy lies. You're trying to decipher, using the ruler of a human being with a soul, the behavior of someone who perhaps isn't operating by the same internal mechanism as you. What if I told you that Dolores Cannon, one of the greatest hypnotherapists of the last century, spent decades collecting accounts across thousands of deep regression sessions about a category of individuals who walk among us, occupy bodies, fulfill social roles, but do not carry the same essence you carry? In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the 5 signs she mapped out. Silent signs, almost invisible to those who don't know how to look. And when you recognize the first one in someone from your circle, you won't be able to unsee it. Over her lifetime, Dolores Cannon developed a technique called Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, the QHHT. Her method was different. She wasn't interested in making the client remember their childhood. She would take the person into a state of consciousness far below dreaming, a zone where the rational mind sleeps and something deeper begins to speak. And in that territory, session after session, with people who didn't know each other, in different cities, in different decades, she began to receive the same information, repeated with a coherence that sent chills down her spine. Earth, these accounts said, is a school, a dense space, designed to accelerate the learning of consciousness through pain, contrast, relationship. Except a school has students in different grades, and there are also people circulating in the yard who aren't students. Cannon began to describe that not all human bodies house the same thing inside. Some carry old souls, veteran, wise. Others carry young souls, eager for experience. And there is a third category, rarer and more disturbing, which she began to call, with great caution, individuals without authentic spiritual essence, complete human bodies, functional, intelligent, with careers, with families, with a LinkedIn history, but without that which makes a human being on the inside. Before your rational mind locks up, breathe. I'm not asking you to believe in anything. I'm asking you to observe patterns. Because if the description of these patterns coincides with the description of the person who has been keeping you up at night for months, maybe you aren't dealing with someone difficult. Maybe you're dealing with something structurally different. And that difference explains why none of your strategies, none of your conversations, none of your nights crying into your pillow managed to touch the core of that person. You were trying to warm something that has no internal fireplace. And that's what the next 5 signs are about. The first sign, the quietest and most devastating, is the absence of true empathy. Pay attention to the word true, because it changes everything. These people aren't cold. They don't go around huffing with rage. Often, quite the opposite. They're friendly, sociable. They say the right things at the right times. They text you on your birthday. They cry at the funeral. They hug you when you receive a diagnosis. The gesture is impeccable. The script is followed to the letter. But if you close your eyes and feel, you realize there's nobody home behind that gesture. It's like a rehearsed actor. The word arrives, but the vibration doesn't come along with it. Dolores Cannon described this as imitated empathy, a learned catalogue of social behaviors that the individual copied by observing others throughout their entire life, testing what works, filing away the reactions that generate approval. It's like someone who studied the manual on how to be human very thoroughly, but was never human on the inside. Have you ever lived that scene? You tell someone a huge tragedy, a loss, a betrayal, a firing. The person responds with all the correct phrases. Oh, I can only imagine how you're feeling. I'm here for you. That's so unfair. And yet, when you hang up the phone, you feel emptier than you did before you called. You feel a slight confusion. Shouldn't I be feeling better? Only you're not. You're feeling worse. That's not you being picky. That's your field picking up on the absence of resonance. The words were exchanged, but no real emotion crossed the line. And your unconscious, which is much older and wiser than your rational part, registered the emptiness. It knows. It always knew. The problem is that your head keeps trying to convince your body that, no, she's a good person, she said all the right things. And while that internal fight goes on, You bleed silently in the relationship. The second sign is the strange, almost alien relationship these people have with truth and lies. For someone with an awakened spiritual essence, lying carries weight. There's a physical discomfort, a tightness in the chest, difficulty looking you in the eye, an emotional residue that lingers for days, weeks. The lie scratches from the inside. That's not religious morality. It's an energetic signature. The nervous system of someone who has a soul recognizes the lie as a dissonance, a noise inside the body. But for these individuals that Dolores Cannon describes, truth has no weight, no gravity. It's just a tool, a gear that can be used when convenient and discarded when it gets in the way. If telling the truth brings an advantage, they tell the truth. If telling a lie brings an advantage, they tell the lie. If telling a half-truth is even more efficient, that's what they do. And most unsettling of all, with no physical sign whatsoever, no averted gaze, no hesitation in the voice, no residue afterward. You walk away from the conversation swearing it was all true. And 3 weeks later, you find out every word was crafted, millimeter by millimeter, to produce a specific reaction in you. And this is where these people become the most efficient manipulators on the planet. They aren't lying with effort, like a regular human trying to deceive and slipping up. They are simply building the version of reality that serves the goal of the moment. They tailor the story to the audience. They tell one version to their mother, another to their partner, another to their boss, another to their friend. And they don't lose sleep over it, because there's no internal moral center complaining. It's like asking a calculator to feel ashamed of the result. The gear wasn't designed for that. And when you start noticing these inconsistencies, when you begin to piece things together and present the evidence, that's when you encounter the other bizarre phenomenon. They don't confess. They rewrite. They look you in the eye and say you misunderstood, that you're confusing things, that your memory is failing. You start to doubt your own sanity. Welcome to the territory of industrial-scale gaslighting. And in the end, you're left with the emotional wreckage. They move on, light as a feather, as if washing their hands clean. The third sign is an energetic dynamic that Dolores Cannon described with a word that frightens many people: parasitic. And you need to understand this carefully, because it's not an accusation, it's a mechanism. According to reports from the sessions, these individuals cannot generate emotional and spiritual energy from the inside out. They cannot produce their own light. So they extract. They extract silently, sophisticatedly, without you noticing the drain in the moment. And the pattern is almost always the same. At the beginning of the bond, it's maximum intensity. You are the most special person in the world. You are the soulmate they've waited their whole life for. You are the best friend they never had. The messages are constant. The praise is superlative. Their interest in you is obsessive. For the first time in a long while, you feel truly seen, truly chosen. Except that's not recognition. That's scanning. The person is mapping out your cracks, your fears, your dreams, your buttons. They are drawing the key that opens your door. And the moment you hand over your heart, the picture changes. The tone drops. The interest withers. The frequency of messages falls. The small criticisms begin, the disdain disguised as jokes, the long silences that make you chase after them, the episodes of warmth followed by ice. It's the cycle that trauma therapists call affective intermittence, and that Dolores Cannon described as the method by which the parasitic structure keeps its food source hooked. Because you see, when affection is constant, you get your fill. When affection is intermittent, you enter a state of chronic waiting, and the state of chronic waiting generates exactly the kind of dense, anxious, obsessive emotional energy that these people feed on. You wake up thinking about them. You go to sleep thinking about them. Your mental field is entirely occupied by them. And at the end of the month, you look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself. You've lost weight, lost focus, lost your spark. They, on the other side, are fine. They have never been better. The fuel is being transferred, and you are the matrix being drained. The fourth sign is perhaps the most frustrating for those who try to save these people, and Dolores Cannon insisted on it heavily: the absence of real spiritual transformation. You've seen this scene before. The person reads the books, attends the retreats, does family constellations, holistic therapy, white table, Kambo, ayahuasca, vipassana, meditation. They know all the terms. They quote Eckhart Tolle at dinner. They talk about the higher self, about cutting auric cords, about the shadow. They appear spiritually sophisticated, almost more advanced than you. But beneath the perfect discourse, the behavior is exactly the same as 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They still cheat, manipulate, play the victim, blame others, avoid responsibility, drain whoever gets close. Nothing changes at the core. The aesthetics change, the vocabulary changes, the profile picture changes, the center remains frozen. This happens because, according to the accounts Canon compiled, spiritual evolution is not about accumulating information. It is about digesting experience. It is about taking a pain, sitting with it, being crushed by it, and emerging on the other side with a different internal frequency. A human being with an awakened essence does this, even without therapy, even without formal spirituality. Life hits, they change inside. It's organic. The individuals Dolores described, however, seem incapable of completing this digestive cycle. Experience enters and exits like food that passes through the intestine without being absorbed. They can go through absurd ruptures, painful losses, public humiliations, moments that would break anyone inside, and the next day they are performing the same version of themselves, with the same patterns, the same triggers, the same repertoire. As if the experience hadn't happened on an internal level, as if the deep emotional register was switched off. And that is why any attempt you make to help this person grow is a doomed attempt. You are trying to plant a seed in ground that does not absorb water. It is not your fault, it is the geology of the terrain. The fifth sign completes the puzzle and is the most painful to accept when you are already entangled with someone like this: the inability to form authentic emotional connections. And again, pay attention to the word authentic. These people can indeed form bonds. They marry, have children, have friends, have business partners. But if you look closely at the architecture of those bonds, you realize there is no real intimacy. There is utility, there is possession, there is status, there is convenience. The romantic partner is chosen for beauty, money, social access, the ability to serve as a mirror for the ego. The children are seen as an extension of one's own image. The friends are chosen for strategic advantage. There is no real vulnerability of saying, "I don't know, I'm afraid, I need you." There is no shared silence that only two souls can sustain. There is none of that feeling, when you look at the other person, of looking through a window into an entire universe. There is a well-crafted surface and nothing underneath. Have you ever been with someone like that? That relationship where even when you were together you still felt alone. You shared a bed, you shared the bill, you shared the vacation plans, but you never shared that deep silence, the one where two beings recognize each other. You tried deeper conversations and they slipped away. You tried vulnerability, and it was ignored or later used against you. You tried creating rituals of intimacy, and the other person reacted with discomfort, with scorn, with deflection. And the cruelest part, you began to doubt your own capacity to love. You started asking yourself if the problem was you, if you were asking for too much, if this whole deep connection thing was something you made up. It wasn't. It never was. What was missing was on the other side, not yours. You were trying to make love to someone who has the hardware for loving, but doesn't have the software installed. And no matter how hard you try to force compatibility, the system simply won't run. Now, reaching this point in the video, it's natural that you're feeling a mix of things. Maybe relief because someone finally put a name to what you've lived through. Maybe anger because you identified specific people in each of those 5 signs. Maybe fear because you're thinking, my God, what if I'm that person? Breathe. If you're wondering whether it's you, you probably aren't. That very question, that very discomfort, is a sign of a lit consciousness. Hollow individuals don't lie awake at night wondering if they're hurting someone. They sleep. You don't. That's the difference. And this is where Dolores Cannon's final message becomes very important, because she always insisted that the goal of this knowledge isn't to create paranoia, isn't to go hunting for soulless people around the world, isn't to label everyone who disappointed you as spiritually empty. The goal is discernment, and discernment is different from judgment. Judgment is closing your heart and pointing fingers. Discernment is opening your eyes and choosing where to invest your energy. You don't need to expose these people, denounce them, shout at them. You need, silently, to remove your field from theirs. You need to reduce access. You need to stop handing over intimate information. You need to stop expecting from them what they structurally cannot deliver. A dry faucet won't start gushing water just because you cried under it. It's dry. Accepting the nature of the source is the first act of spiritual sanity, and at the same time, you begin to redirect your energy toward bonds that carry genuine resonance, people with whom silence is comfortable, people who listen without preparing their response, people who give back, effortlessly, the same frequency you emit. They exist. You've bumped into a few. Maybe you didn't invest in them because you were too busy trying to get approval from those who didn't see you. Protecting your energy in the end isn't about building thick walls against the world. It's about developing the fine sensitivity to recognize in seconds when an encounter adds to you and when it subtracts from you. You know. Your body knows. That slight drop in your stomach when a certain name pops up on your phone, that isn't causeless anxiety, that's data. That inexplicable exhaustion after an hour with a certain person, that isn't a lack of coffee, that's a drain. That feeling of shrinking near someone, that isn't your insecurity, that's your field contracting out of a preservation instinct. You have inside you one of the most sophisticated reading systems in the universe. It's called intuition, and it has never been wrong. What was wrong was your rational part that kept insisting on ignoring what your body had already diagnosed. You can close this video now, follow your routine, and tomorrow morning wake up and send a message to that person. Again, hoping that this time it will be different. It won't. Her internal gear is the same gear as yesterday, last year, last decade. Or you can close this video, stay in silence for a few minutes, let the information sink in, and make a decision that your soul has been asking of you for a long time. Reduce access, reorganize the circle, return to inhabit your own body. Trust, for the first time in a long time, what your intuition already knew. Dolores Cannon didn't leave this knowledge to make you afraid of the world. She left it to return you to the center of your own field. The world does have individuals who operate on another frequency. But the world also has, and in much greater quantity, whole beings, lit up, ready to recognize you. The problem was never the existence of the first ones. The problem was how much of your time you spent trying to be loved by them. Enough. Now you know how to look, and whoever knows how to look chooses, decides.